The day I gave birth to my legitimate son, my screams were extremely loud. The midwife said the baby was too large, making delivery difficult. If it dragged on any longer, I am afraid both mother and child would die, and Hiwenja rushed over in haste, travel-worn and dusty. Everyone said I had married a good husband, but little did they know what he said was, Yuan, let's divorce. The smell of blood in the delivery room had not yet dissipated. The severe pain in my body had not yet eased. The cold wind blew in, accompanied by the child's breathing. I was stunned for a long time, so long that a trace of impatience appeared on his face. Only when he called out again did I snap back to reality. He said, "After all, you and I got married only because of the friendship between our parents. You married me to repay a debt of gratitude. So now that you've given birth to a legitimate son, the bond is fulfilled and the debt is repaid. Let's divorce then." I looked at his face numbly and slowly said, "Is that all?" Hiwenja paused, then said, "Lubai, she cannot be wronged by becoming a concubine." That trace of confusion in my heart finally dissipated, leaving only a ground of dead ashes. So that is how it is. I see now, yes, after all, she is his true soulmate. Even if she is a courtesan, Hiwenja would never mistreat her. How ridiculous that he is still arguing with me at this moment. Lubai is different from other courtesans. She was originally a lady from a good family who fell on hard times, which is why she ended up in such circumstances. Though in a brothel she has an unyielding spirit, even if threatened with death, she wouldn't let anyone touch her even slightly. Don't you dare look down on her. So chaste and virtuous, if you hadn't been saved back then, wouldn't you also be? Wenja, the He family couple who hurriedly came from behind, interrupted what he was about to say, but it was already too late. I blinked and continued with a bitter smile. Wouldn't I also be a brothel girl? I'd probably compromise and submit, fearing death and opening my door to customers. Hiwenja knew he misspoke. Regret flashed in his eyes, and he turned his face away. That is not what I meant. But a Yuan, Lubai cannot be concubine. So what about me? Should I be divorced after narrowly surviving and giving birth to his child? Hiwenja was right. I married him because of our parents' friendship, and also to repay a debt of gratitude. The Wang family and He family had been on good terms for generations. To what extent? Probably to the extent that the children of both families had been betrothed since childhood. Later, when the Wang family met with disaster, the He family didn't abandon their friendship and saved their only orphaned daughter, then arranged my marriage to Hiwenji according to the childhood betrothal. At time I had no one to rely on, and after being saved I only felt gratitude. As for Hiwenja, I only remembered there was a little brother who favoured and protected me when we were young. Every time I was ridiculed, he would always stand in front of me and scold everyone harshly. Others would tell him not to meddle in other people's business. He would then smile proudly. "What do you mean meddling? This is my future wife. You dare bully my wife, you deserve to be beaten by me." After saying that, he turned back and handed me a handkerchief. With tears in the corners of my eyes, I blushed at his words. Who is your wife?" He showed no shame and said frankly, "A Yuan and I have an arranged marriage since childhood. So a Yuan is my wife in this whole world. No one is allowed to bully my wife." Clearly not very old, yet the words he spoke were so bold. It made me burst into laughter through my tears. Later, the He family left for business far away. On the day of their departure, I followed father and mother to see them off. I secretly slipped him a handkerchief, on which a colourful kite was clumsily embroidered in crooked stitches. He tilted his head to look at me, but I kept my head down, looking at the ground, and said softly, I embroidered it myself. Consider it a thank you gift. But it really wasn't embroidered well. A beginner's hands full of needle marks, sewing a young girl's feelings, all hidden together beneath the sleeves. He said nothing, so I got anxious and blurted out, "If you don't want it, just throw it away." What I got in return was a soft laugh. When I looked up, the carriage had already started moving. The young boy on it was waving that handkerchief, shouting loudly, "Don't let anyone bully you anymore. If you can't beat them, wait for me. Wait for me to come back and marry you." I'll deal with them for you. I believed him. So after that, I never let anyone bully me again. Others relied on my timid nature, so I trained my courage. When others wanted to lay hands on me, I would fight back even if it meant risking my life. After many years, this was how Wenja and I met again. A group of people pressing me down and forcing me to receive clients got into a fight with me. He received a letter from the family couple and kicked the door open. I still remember the scene from that day. For many days, the despair of my family's downfall and the gloom of my parents' deaths were pushed aside by the light that poured through that door. The person who once told me to wait for him to marry me kicked away the person grabbing me, pulled me up by the hand and said coldly, "Who allowed you to touch her?" Young master, he still had that same spirited appearance from before, and even seeing me in such a wretched state, he could treat me as before without any change in expression. Draping clothes over me, he said to me in a low voice, "You must be little sister Ayuan, right? Don't worry. Uncle Wang sent a letter to my parents before he passed away. Everything's fine now, all fine," I cried uncontrollably. The only thing that was different, probably, was that he had forgotten the words he once said about marrying me, so much so that when he heard about the marriage arrangement with me again, he made a scene. That was just a joke between the elders. Besides, I am still so young, how could I get married so early? Ayuan, I only see her as a younger sister. Young master, he, naturally romantic by nature, loved poetry, books, and horse racing. When had he ever thought about settling down and being constrained? However, the family parents had long wanted him to settle down. Now that I had returned, starting a family and establishing a career, it was a good time and a good opportunity. So they came to beg me, tears streaming down their aged faces. They spoke of the generations of friendship between our two families, of how well they had treated me, and how they had exhausted every effort to rescue me. This orphaned girl, they had gone to great lengths. If I married into their family, they certainly wouldn't treat me poorly either. I asked the elderly couple, "Is Brother Wenja willing to marry me?" The elderly couple assured me, "He is willing, he said so himself." That day the snow fell heavily, and he came to ask me if I was willing to marry him. I saw in his eyes not a trace of love, yet I recalled that day when I cried. The handkerchief he handed me, it was embroidered with a colourful kite. Not very pretty, clumsy and awkward. In the end, grasping at that sliver of hope, I asked, "Does Cousin Hager have someone he loves in his heart?" He didn't understand why I asked, shook his head, and asked me in return. The smile at the corners of my mouth faded a bit, and I shook my head. He was convinced that he was marrying me only because of his parents' orders, which could not be disobeyed. He thought that I was marrying him only because of the debt of saving my life, which had to be repaid. But in the end, 3 years. 3 years' time drawing eyebrows and painting eyes, reading Romance of the Western Chamber together, he and I could be considered respectful to each other. Harmonious like lute and zither, just a little bit more, and I would have believed that we truly would walk together for a lifetime. But now he says, "Ayuan, let us divorce." For once, I didn't show my usual obedience, and, disregarding my father-in-law and mother-in-law's presence, I asked him, "If that is the case, why didn't you tell me earlier? Why did you draw my eyebrows for me? Why did you read books with me? Why did you let me conceive a child?" I hysterically wanted to ask him, but I couldn't after the difficult labor. My blood and chi were severely depleted. Even a single question came out weak and powerless. "After all, we were husband and wife for 3 years, he said. "At that time, you were already some months pregnant. If I had told you earlier and something went wrong, it would inevitably cause harm." I truly didn't know whether to cry or laugh. Laugh that my husband actually still thought about not hurting me. Cry that, even though he was so considerate of me, he spoke directly of divorce right after I gave birth to our child. Clearly, he had endured for a very long time. Clearly, he truly loved that woman called Lu Bai to the extreme Wang Laiyuan. Your 3 years of time still couldn't make your young man remember his original vows. The family couple were furious, breaking several rods that day, angrily cursing him as an unfilial son. But this time, Wenja didn't back down. He said, The reason he compromised to marry me back then was because he had no one he loved. But now with Lulu Bai here, even if he died, he wouldn't back down. The woman he Wenja loved must naturally become his wife. As for me, Yuan, I told you, I only see her as a younger sister. It was you all who forced me to marry her. The matter caused quite a stir. Everyone in the household knew about it. The birth of the legitimate son, what should have been a joyous occasion, left the He residence in complete desolation. Everyone knew that the young couple who usually appeared respectful and exceptionally loving was precisely because He Wenja didn't love me. Everyone knew that during the young mistress's pregnancy, the young master rescued a woman who had jumped from a brothel to prove her determination to die. At first, he only wanted to save her life and redeem her freedom, providing her with a residence. Later, he discovered that this woman shared his aspirations and ambitions and was not a docile and obedient wooden person who only knew how to manage the household and serve her parents. In law, they discussed past and present together, pouring out their hearts to each other. The unrestrained and wild young master of the He family finally found, one day, the kind of woman who could make him stop in his tracks, completely different from the one he married by his parents' arrangement. The servants were cautious around me, and my parents-in-law didn't dare criticize me harshly. Yet I was unusually quiet. Each day, aside from taking care of the child, I would embroider and nurture my health as usual. After who knows how many days, the sunlight outside the window stung my eyes. Only then did I raise my head, suddenly remembering something. That child looked extremely like He Wenja. He hadn't had the chance to tell him yet. At that moment, the door was pushed open. "Madam, there is a visitor requesting to see you." The maid came to report. Who the visitor was actually wasn't hard to guess, just as Lulubai wasn't surprised that I would let her in so quickly. Her face beneath the conical hat was delicate and pretty, yet her opening words were, "Miss Wang, I beg you to let me and Wenja be together. If this continues, he'll be beaten to death by old Master He." She wasn't even willing to address me as Mrs. He, as if I were the villain tearing apart lovers. I asked her if she knew beforehand that He Wenja already had a wife, and that his first wife was even pregnant. She immediately said, "If it weren't for the fact that you are pregnant, and we feared you'd harm yourself upon learning the truth, Wenja wouldn't have waited this long. As for you two being husband and wife, Wenja didn't willingly marry you in the first place. Weren't you just repaying a debt of gratitude? Now that you are divorcing, how is this not mutually beneficial?" Her gaze was resolute, believing that sacrificing everything for her beloved was justified, and that they should naturally be together. "Miss Wang, it is already difficult enough in this world to be with the one you love. Why fuss over trivial details? As for me, this trivial detail, laughed and spoke up. Brother Wenja treats me as tenderly as he did in our youth. Even with the divorce, he waited until I gave birth before bringing it up. Miss Liu doesn't know this, but when he was young, he loved to make a fuss. Whenever someone bullied me, he'd fight for me. Miss Wang." Lulu Bai frowned upon hearing this, but I continued as if I hadn't heard her. "He and I were even betrothed as children. The adults asked him if he was willing to marry little sister Iwan, and he said he was willing. So I waited and waited for so many years. Finally he came. We got married, living in perfect harmony. Miss Wang." Lulu Bai sternly interrupted me, but I smiled and pointed at the child sleeping soundly nearby, asking her, "Miss Liu, does my child with him look like him?" Lulu Bai finally had a chance to speak, saying indifferently, "Wenja is a free-spirited person who has saved countless lives. As for the childhood betrothal, it was merely said in jest. If he truly had feelings for you, why would he not remember these past events? He doesn't remember. I am like someone jolted awake from a nightmare. I fell silent, neither hitting nor scolding her, only recalling that it had been over a month since I gave birth to our legitimate son. Me husband, the child's father, hasn't even come to see him once." Miss Wang, after a very long time, so long that Lulu Bai couldn't wait for me to speak and grew anxious. She was eager to carve out a future with He Wenja, as if the only thing standing in their way had always been me, this ungrateful and dull-witted legal wife. I even saw tears falling from the corners of her anxious eyes, and raised the handkerchief in my hand toward her. But the door suddenly burst open. Lubai! The pain from being violently shoved against the door brought me back to my senses. Hiwenja, who had rushed over in haste, didn't even glance at me, but worriedly held Lubai and asked if she was hurt. He took out a handkerchief from his sleeve to wipe away her tears. Because he was in such a hurry, the other handkerchiefs all fell out. Lubai froze for a moment, then hurriedly said, "I am fine, but Miss Wang." Silence fell around us. Hiwenja came to his senses and whipped his head around, only then seeing me by the door. A flash of regret crossed his eyes. "Ah, Yuan, I didn't mean to." The child, woken by the commotion, cried incessantly, and I, crying and laughing at the same time, asked him, "Brother Wenja, why do you still keep my handkerchief?" He looked confused. Young master, he was wild and unrestrained. He had many handkerchiefs, always stuffing them carelessly into his sleeves. Naturally, he couldn't remember who gave which or who bought which, just as he couldn't remember once telling a girl to wait for him properly, that he would come to marry her. After Lubai left, I asked Hiwenja if he had ever felt even a shred of true affection for me during those 3 years. He paused. "You are filial to elders, well, educated and reasonable. If I hadn't met Lubai, I thought that spending my life with you like this would be acceptable." But there were no ifs. Lulubai's appearance made him disregard everything. "Even disregard the child?" I asked back. He closed his eyes. "The doctor said at the time that your body was weak, and if the child was lost, it would certainly cause great harm. I had no choice. Yuan, in this matter, consider it me. Hiwenja wronging you." He drew his sword and handed it to me. "If you bear resentment, I accept it. As for the child, after the divorce, he would treat him well too, absolutely without favoritism." I took the sword, watched him face death unflinchingly. At that time, he'd rather die than not divorce. As he wished, I thrust it in. He let out a muffled grunt, waiting for me to vent my anger. But the long sword only went 3 inches in before falling to the ground. He opened his eyes in surprise. Me face was like withered wood, my voice barely perceptible. "Hiwenja, let's get a divorce. Not husband, not cousin he, and not brother Wenja either. But Hiwenja, years ago, when that young man left, he said everything to me, said to wait for him, said he would marry me, said if anyone bullied me, when he came back, he would get even for me. But he never said what to do if the one bullying me turned out to be him. It was originally a youthful karmic bond. It was originally a life-saving debt. Now the karmic bond has dissolved. As for that owed life, I've been the He family's young mistress for 3 years, been dutiful to my in-laws, gave birth to the eldest grandson. No matter how you calculate it, I've repaid it in full." The He couple was both angry and anxious, but in the end he was their own son. Seeing Hiwenja's reckless manner, they would naturally soften, show favoritism. Their words carried persuasion. "How about elevating that woman to equal wife, not divorcing? In this world, it is normal for men to have 3 or 4 wives." They came to discuss with me. After days of commotion, beating and scolding done, yet I still wouldn't budge an inch, being so hard-hearted, the 2 elders' words inevitably carried a trace of dissatisfaction. I didn't argue back. I just shoved the child who'd barely reached full month into their arms. That was a child of the He family. Whether Hiwenja would show favoritism was unknown. But the He family couple weren't senile yet. They certainly wouldn't let the child suffer any grievances. Once I left, I was destined to drift alone. Taking him with me would only make him suffer. I could give him nothing else. As for Hiwenja, after I signed the divorce papers, he fell silent for a long time for some reason. As if to compensate, he gave me quite a bit of money and goods. He also bought me a house in the east part of the city. Everything has been arranged. Though you and I cannot be husband and wife, we can still be like siblings. Moreover, the child is still here. Lubai is kind-hearted and easy to get along with. You can come back to visit any time." He spoke urgently about something or other. Holding that divorce paper, I brushed past him. "Number I won't come back." The words fell to the ground. He stared blankly at my departing figure. My mother-in-law, holding her grandson, spoke up. Ayuan has a fierce temperament. Those are just words said in anger. After all, there is still a child who is barely a month old. How could a mother not come to see him? Moreover, she has always been deeply in love with you. She won't not come back. Only now did she reveal the reason why she hadn't stopped me from leaving. When that time comes, you just say some soft words saying you'll take that Lulu Bai as an equal wife. And the position of household mistress will still be hers. Won't she come back then? He Wenger, his brow furrowed. But Lubai and I are truly in love. How could I? Mother, he dismissed this. Then you are not heartless toward a Yuan either. You are the eldest son of the family to begin with. What man of such status out there doesn't have 3 wives and 4 concubines? My son is magnanimous and unwilling to wrong that Liu woman, but don't mistreat a Yuan either. After all, she is still the daughter of the Wang family. All these years she has been filial to her parents, in-law, managed the household, and even bore you a legitimate son, though she is somewhat headstrong after grinding her down for some time. When she realizes your goodness and comes back, she should understand that as the young mistress, what she most needs to be is magnanimous. It is impossible to monopolize one's husband for a lifetime. When that time comes, don't hold it against her either. Bring her back home and return to how things were before and live a good life together. This is your father's plan as well. Mother, he arranged everything crystal clear, feeling she had a clear conscience toward me, and even brought up father he, in the end. It made he Wenger, who prided himself on being deeply devoted, waver. Though just yesterday he was still firmly speaking of his true love for Lulu Bai, today he said with difficulty and hesitation, if that is the case, that is fine too. Lubai isn't like Liyuan. She is magnanimous and open-minded, and certainly won't be as petty as Liyuan. Thinking of this, only then did he notice the child in mother. His arms come to think of it. He had met Lulu Bai right after learning I was pregnant. All his affection was poured onto Lulu Bai. If not for the thought that miscarriage would harm my body, most likely this child wouldn't have been kept either. Not to mention that after giving birth to him, he Wenger was busy giving Lulu Bai a proper status. Feeling guilty and not daring to see me, he rushed about from place to place every day. Counting carefully, though, he had become a father for the first time. This was the first time he had looked closely at his first child, also the child I bore with him after 3 years of marriage. Just as I had said, though, the child wasn't very old. The features truly resembled him remarkably. It moved his heart, and he reached out to take the handkerchief from his sleeve to play with the child, seeing the child giggle with laughter. The corners of his mouth also curved into a smile, and he subconsciously asked, "What name did Yuan give the child?" "No name. What?" He Wenger didn't react in time, Mother, he answered again. She didn't give the child a name. Thud, the handkerchief dropped to the ground. He Wenger's expression froze. For some reason, he subconsciously thought of what I said when leaving. Not coming back. A trace of panic arose in his heart. Mother, he beside him, didn't understand and explained. A Yuan loves you so much she must have wanted to save the name for you to choose. Just right. Now that you are here, give the child a name. That is right, everyone else could see it. A Yuan loved him to the bone, without complaint or regret, considerate in every detail. So how could a Yuan not come back? She must be angry. Speaking of which, this matter was indeed his oversight. He only thought about how Lubai was alone and helpless, busy giving her status, but forgot that a Yuan had also been wronged. Mother is right. Since ancient times, men having 3 wives and 4 concubines has always been a common thing. He just happens to love one more, and marrying her as an equal wife is also within reason. As the young madam, a Yuan should be magnanimous. This time she left because she was extremely angry, but after some days when her anger subsides, she'll naturally come back. When that time comes, he'll honestly admit his fault, and a Yuan will soften. Most importantly, the Wang family has long been destroyed with everyone dead, leaving only a Yuan alone. So apart from the He family, where else could a Yuan go? He Wenger's heart relaxed. Looking at the child, he said, Let's call him Yuji then. He Yuji a Yuan will like this name. He happily picked up the handkerchief. On that handkerchief was embroidered a not-so-exquisite, colourful kite looking like a beginner's work. When he got it, he had already forgotten. After all these years, he either wandered the Jianghu or travelled south for business, encountering countless people and events. As time went on, what wasn't particularly important naturally became gradually blurred. This handkerchief was one such thing several times. He had wanted to throw it away. It was just a handkerchief after all. He never lacked them, but for some reason, every time he thought this way, he still didn't throw it out in the end. It seemed as if this handkerchief truly wasn't an ordinary object, but what it represented, he had already forgotten. He only remembered that no matter what, it shouldn't be thrown away. He doesn't love her anymore, yet can't bear to throw away the thing she gave him. He has married his lover, yet still misses the good qualities of his original wife. This handkerchief is proof of his selfishness, wanting both Lulubai's spiritual resonance and Wang Liyuan's gentle consideration. Nothing but the greed of a snake trying to swallow an elephant. 1 month later, the He family's wedding to Lulubai was quite a grand affair. He Wenja seemed to have completely figured things out. He admired Lulubai's free-spiritedness and their shared interests, but had also developed feelings over these 3 years for me, his gentle and considerate first wife. So he didn't want to let either of us down. What I had when he married me, Lulubai should have too. Similarly, the affection Lulubai once received, he would make up for when I returned. He was the eldest son of the He family, the future head of household. What is wrong with taking 2 wives? When the time came, I would be the primary wife and Lulubai would be the equal wife, a perfect solution for everyone. But it seemed he hadn't told Lulubai beforehand, so much so that on their wedding night, in the bridal chamber, the joyful smile on Lulubai's face turned to ashes after hearing his plan. This was something I only learned about much later. I only knew that even though she was aware he Wenja had a pregnant first wife, she had still fought to have that wedding night regardless. In the end, it didn't go pleasantly. This wasn't surprising. After all, on that day when she barged in front of me and vowed earnestly that I should fulfill her and he Wenja's wishes, she had said, "I have nothing left in this life except Wenja's love. My heart delights in him and his heart delights in me, so naturally we should be together. On the contrary, it is you, Miss Wang. Your husband doesn't love you yet. You have no backbone to divorce him. What is the use of clinging desperately? So what if you are his legal wife? Whoever Wenja loves is his true wife. If he doesn't love you, he'll divorce you sooner or later. Since that is the case, why not fulfill our wishes?" When she said these words, her brows and eyes were full of arrogance, looking at me with pity and righteous conviction, as she wished. My backbone grew back. I divorced him, and fulfilled their wishes too, but she seemed to have forgotten. A man's love can be split in half. When the man she claimed was mutually in love with her, told her that not only must she share his love equally with another woman, but she must also get along well with her. One can imagine that the wedding night indeed did not go very wonderfully, for instance, barely half a month into the marriage. Once again, He Wenja and she quarrelled over some trivial matter. He Wenja was truly annoyed. Clearly when he was with Lulubai at the residence outside, they were deeply affectionate. But after marrying her back home, with me gone, Lulubai took over managing the inner household affairs. Her heart was never in this to begin with, so naturally she struggled with it. Plus, with mother, he busy taking care of her eldest grandson and no one to help. In just half a month's time, the household affairs became a complete mess. After a tiring day, He Wenja had to come home and help her clean up the mess. Naturally, resentment grew more and more. When a Yuan was at home, she managed the inner household perfectly well. If you don't understand, that is fine. But why won't you let her come back? Moreover, I am the head of the family. What is wrong with having 3 wives and 4 concubines? Don't forget, you also wronged a Yuan back then. Lu Bai, when did you become so petty? He Wenja was full of disappointment. Do you know that you now are completely different from that open-minded woman who used to talk with me about everything under the sun? Lulu Bai's face turned pale. looking at the person across from her in disbelief. Wenja, how can you say this about me? You see, even the most perfect couple will change when faced with daily necessities. Wenja knew he had said the wrong thing. After all, she was the person he loved. Though disappointed in his heart, he still didn't want to quarrel with her. At this moment, he suddenly especially missed the gentle and considerate Yuan from before, and the eldest young master of the He family always had to get what he wanted immediately. So he turned around and headed toward the residence he had bought for Yuan after all this time. She should have calmed down by now. At worst, he would just apologize to Yuan. Yuan liked him so much, she would definitely go back with him. Then Lu Bai wouldn't have to manage those household affairs, and things could return to how they were. Everything would go back to its proper place, instead of this current messy situation. As for whether I would refuse to go back with him or not, he never even considered it. After all, we still have a child in swaddling clothes, don't we? Yuan, as soon as he dismounted, Wenja couldn't wait to knock on the door of the residence. The noise was extremely loud, making the homeowner who opened the door look extremely displeased. Who are you? Why are you knocking on a private residence? Wenja reacted even more strongly, looking warily at the scholarly looking man before him, his tone cold and harsh. Who are you? Yuan. Where is Yuan? Where is the owner of this residence? I want to see her. Yuan. What Yuan? The scholar was puzzled. This residence was sold to me a month and a half ago, you know. At that time, that young lady who looked somewhat lost and distraught sold this residence to me at a low price, then left without looking back. Left? Wenja's expression shattered, and he asked frantically, where did she go? When will she come back? The scholar looked at him as if looking at an idiot. Since she sold the residence and left, naturally she won't come back. As for where she went, who are you? Why should I tell you? Bang, the door was slammed shut, like a thunderous crash in Wenja's mind. At this moment he finally understood. I am really not coming back. It is not sulking, nor is it playing hard to get, but to not want him anymore. Along with the child, not wanting any of it anymore. Know that the Celestial Dynasty has opened the Silk Road. Merchant caravans come and go endlessly, but with a woman's identity, it is somewhat unsafe. So I smeared myself with dirt and grime, disguising myself as a young merchant, spent some silver and organized a merchant caravan, started learning the silk trade. Not exactly smooth sailing, but haven't suffered any major losses either. This isn't because I am extremely lucky, mainly because this wasn't a spur of the moment decision, but something I came prepared for, during that month when Wenja made a huge fuss to give Lu Bai a proper status. I also thought deeply for a month, rather than suffer for a lifetime, desperately seeking one person. It is better to cut off the tail and save myself. Better late than never to mend the fold after the sheep are lost. Since that young man who once made me wait faithfully for him to marry me has already changed his heart, then why should I wallow in self-pity? I don't know what the He family's rules are regarding how many wives and concubines, but I am the daughter of the Wang family, and my parents have been a devoted couple their entire lives. They raised me, Wang Laiyuan, like a precious pearl and jade. Not so I would live or die for a man and humble myself as a lesser wife. Since he doesn't love me, I won't force it. What childhood betrothal, life-saving debt, mistress confidante, equal wife divorce? What he owes me, what I owe him, it is already a tangled mess. Forget it. I am too lazy to sort it out anymore. A divorce agreement, one cut, and it is done. The Wang family and the He family were on good terms. Naturally, both were merchant families. As the only daughter of the Wang family, I was influenced by what I saw and heard, so I picked up business matters quickly. So after leaving the He family, I only felt down for a moment before I'd already made up my mind to leave. That scholar, surnamed Wu, I met him at that time. He was a candidate preparing for the spring imperial examination, and he was short a place to stay. But his pockets were tight, and a nice quiet residence was really hard to find. On top of that, he had a damn soft heart. Seeing the landlord who was taking over my residence trying to lowball and make things difficult for me, he rushed over to defend me. The result was obvious. Getting shoved around and knocked flat was one thing, but the books in his basket also spilled all over the ground. I bent down and picked up one and saw the neat handwritten notes on it. I looked at the scholar lying on the ground with 2 swollen eyes and said, "Young master, you can't sleep here." Him, thanks, by the way. I found him a place where he could sleep. He looked at that residence, then thought about the price I mentioned, and found it unbelievable, but I smiled calmly. Either way, I am in a hurry to get rid of it. Rather than let someone else profit, might as well make a good connection. Is it about your heartless bastard of a husband? He was being careful. He only knew about it because that landlord who tried to lowball me had said something. It is nothing more than me, this orphan daughter. Not knowing what is good for me, being married by the eldest son of the He family should be a blessing earned over 8 lifetimes. Yet I still dared to put on airs and refused to let him take a second wife or even concubines. I deserved to be dismissed with a divorce letter. The words were so harsh that even he, an outsider, couldn't stand it and drew his sword to help. I nodded. He was so angry he cursed. They say righteousness is often found among butchers and dog sellers, while the heartless are mostly scholars. How is that man even worse than a scholar? I didn't know whether to laugh or cry, never expecting someone to curse others while including himself in the insult. Seeing that I was selling the estate, he feared I might do something rash. He asked indirectly, "Without your husband's family and without your natal family, where will you go?" I accepted the silver he gave me, turned around and said without looking back, "That tiny little estate has confined me for half my life. With this vast world, how could there be no place for me? The Silk Road is far, and the sandstorms are fierce. Several times I nearly lost my life. To say I left decisively carefree and unattached, that would be a lie. Looking back at the first half of my life, raised in a secluded boudoir, then married and bearing children, Revenge occupied half of it. The girlish feelings of youth, then the marital affection after marriage. How could these be let go just like that? But when I was buried in mud and sand struggling to break free, when I was chased by bandits on the road and narrowly escaped death, when I nearly lost everything in business dealings only to come back from the brink, looking back now, it seems like Revenge was already a matter from a previous lifetime. The mortal world rolls on. Countless lovesick men and resentful women. I finally escaped from this sea of love and hate, returning to Yunzhou where the He family resides. It is already 7 years later. My business on the Silk Road has finally gained a firm foothold, grown big and strong. No, on the Silk Road, everyone knows of a formidable businesswoman. With many people under her command, one could say she is wealthy beyond measure in her region. And now being able to return to Yunzhou, it is entirely because of Wu Wen, that candidate, who was preparing for the spring imperial examination back then, finally got his wish. Occasionally we exchange letters. He mentioned that as an official in Yunzhou, he wants to make some achievements. Why not have him make the connection? I can expand my market. The people of Yunzhou can benefit from it, and Yunzhou merchants can also connect to the Silk Road. All benefits, no harm. Naturally, I had no reason to refuse. As for those old acquaintances, encountering them was inevitable. I just didn't expect that the first one I'd meet would be Lulu Bai. Wu Wen and I rarely get to meet after all these years. Both of us were quite emotional. After exchanging pleasantries, we went out together to survey the situation of Yunzhou's merchants, striving for one to earn more money, the other to be a better official. Both purely career-focused, not slacking off in the slightest. But just as I came out of a fabric shop, I was bumped into by a child. The child had quite some strength, and if Wu Wen hadn't steadied me, I might have fallen to the ground and slept, just like he did on the street back then. But I hadn't even started crying yet, when that child looked like he was about to cry first. Yet even about to cry, he still bit his lip, keeping a straight little face to ask me with dignity, "Are you all right? Just now I didn't mean to. If you are in pain, go ahead and cry. I won't laugh at you, and I'll take you to see a doctor." His little adult manner made me not know whether to laugh or cry. So I took off the small bell I bought in the western regions to coax him. "I am fine, But as for you, if you don't cry, how about I give you this to play with?" The delicate little bell made the child unable to look away, though he didn't forget to pout. "Yuji is a man. What is a little pain like this? I am not scared at all." Hearing this, my hand trembled violently. The next second it was gripped tightly, looking up again. I saw a somewhat twisted and obsessive face. "It is you. You've come back, Wang Liuan." She said it almost word by word. I took great effort to recognize her from this face, raising an eyebrow. Lulu Bai. 7 years. Not long if you say it is long, not short if you say it is short. Logically speaking, no matter what, it shouldn't be to the point of complete non-recognition. But compared to the proud and self-satisfied Lulu Bai from 7 years ago, the her of now had indeed changed tremendously. Once she prided herself on being naturally unadorned, disdaining to please any man, so her face always bore only a thin layer of rouge. But now the white powder on her face was thickly applied, and the vermilion on her red lips was brilliantly vivid. From a lotus blooming in clear water, she had transformed into a gorgeous peony. But this wasn't the most important thing. The biggest change was that the person who used to be most proud and haughty now had eyes filled with anxiety and resentment. Even her brows and eyes appeared exceptionally ferocious. Hearing me speak her name, her voice became even sharper and shriller. "So it really is, you've come back and you still want to fight me for Wenja, don't you? To think I once thought you were something good, but I never imagined you could be so deeply scheming. You're treating to advance, making Wenja unable to forget you. But so what? Wang Leiyuan, don't think you can beat me. I am not who I was back then, and I won't let you succeed." I frowned, calmly broke free from her hand, and spoke. "Miss Liu, just because you have paranoid delusions doesn't mean everyone else does too." Who would have thought her emotions would become even more agitated? "Stop trying to deflect and change the subject with me. Don't think I don't know. You've been waiting for this day, pretending to leave for all these years, making Wenja think you'd never come back, making him feel guilty and unable to forget you, then waiting for the child to grow up, using the child as an excuse to return to the He family with full justification. I am telling you, don't even think about it. Perhaps even Lulu Bai from many years ago, full of vigor and vitality, never imagined that she would one day become a resentful woman with a twisted expression. She questioned frantically, "This is your revenge, isn't it? You resent that Wenja and I are in love. So with your malicious schemes, you deliberately caused friction between us all these years. Because of you, Wang Layuan, what are you pretending to be so noble for? You say I have delusional symptoms, but what about you? I didn't deny it. I used to have it too. It is an illness that needs treatment. Now I am cured, but do you want me to recommend a physician?" She looked just like someone terminally ill. I don't know which sentence enraged her. Almost maniacally, she lunged at me with bared fangs and claws. "You wicked woman. How insolent." In broad daylight, on a busy street. Wu Wen had finally managed to persuade me to come to Yunzhou. No, the matter wasn't even settled yet on his turf. Right in front of him, his guest was being offended. If he didn't come out and say something now, it would be like he thought his face hadn't been slapped hard enough, but in the end he was overthinking. Because just as Lulu Bai was about to reach me, the belated He Wenja finally stepped forward first to block Lulu Bai. "Stop." But it didn't matter whether he was there or not. Ningxuang, who had travelled far and wide with me, slid a dart from her sleeve and said quietly, "Lei Yuan Jie, are you all right?" I raised my hand, she understood, restrained her killing intent, and retreated behind me. 7 years have passed, things have changed, and people are no longer the same, yet the old acquaintances have all gathered. Hiwenja and I looked at each other. Finally we meet again. He looked much older. The once carefree and dashing eldest young master of the He family had now become the middle-aged businessman he used to despise most. Upon seeing me, his eyes reddened slightly, his voice trembling. You've come back." "Me... he muttered to himself. "You've finally come back. You don't know... All these years I've searched for you, endlessly, sleepless every night, worried sick about you every day, fearing you were wandering out there, that something had happened to you. Even Mom and Dad have been concerned about your safety. I wanted to speak. Actually, there is no actually about it. Overjoyed to the point of tears, he reached out to take my hand. But all that is in the past now, and it doesn't matter anymore. Yuan, let's go home. I'll take you home. I finally found an opening to speak. He Wenja. The next second, no way, He Wenja. Don't you dare. Lulu Bai, who had been blocked by He Wenja, turned pale with a twisted expression and shrieked as she struggled. As long as I am alive, this woman will never set foot in the He family's house. All these years you've mistreated me because of her. Even if I die, I won't let her have it easy. Lu Bai, have you lost your mind? Yuan is back. What more do you want to cause a scene about? It was truly rare, He Wenja, who once was willing to divorce me just to give Lulu Bai a proper status, could actually coldly rebuke the person before him with a stern face. If this were 7 years ago, it would be utterly absurd. So Lulu Bai laughs, laughing hysterically. I've gone mad. I've gone mad. I was driven mad by you two, He Wenja said with disgust. Crazy woman meme. I raised my hand and slapped each of them once. 2 crisp slaps rang out, showing the force was not light, successfully making the scene exceptionally quiet. Everyone's eyes turned to look at me in unison. My expression remained calm as I straightened my slightly disheveled sleeves and spoke unhurriedly. You two, may I say a few words now? You hit me. Lulu Bai covered her face and rushed forward. You actually dare to hit me. I grabbed her hand and gave her another slap, sneering coldly. I hit you, and I hit you. Do I need to pick an auspicious day for it? Lulu Bai, don't forget that back then. You knew full well he already had a wife. Yet you still eagerly threw yourself at him, crying and begging me to fulfill your wishes. Now, I've fulfilled your wishes, you got what you wanted. So why are you coming to me acting crazy? Yuan. He Wenja tried to speak. I backhanded him with another slap, pointing at him and saying coldly, and you signed that divorce document with your own hand. Since 7 years ago, you and I have had no marital ties whatsoever. So what right do you have to question where I return to? Lulu Bai is no good person, so what kind of good thing could you be? I looked at the two with their different expressions and warned, now, you husband and wife and I are strangers. If you dare to come forward and make wild accusations again, don't blame me for taking you to court. 2 crazy fools not even looking at what kind of trash they are. Wang Layuan 7 years ago was blind in eyes and heart. But Wang Layuan 7 years later has no such delusions. Lulu Bai refused to accept. Who do you think you are? Wu Wen, who had been ignored on the side for quite a while, finally darkened his face, almost grinding his teeth. This official would like to ask who you two are. Who allowed you to disturb the guest this official invited? The two surrounded by officers, the farce came to an abrupt end, seeing the authorities step in to take the two away. Others didn't dare to watch the excitement anymore. Just as Wu Wen was still apologizing to me, the child who had been standing by my side opened his big eyes and asked with childish innocence, Father calls you Yuan. You are mother, my mother, right? My figure froze. I finally turned to look at him. The young child had been taken care of extremely well. After all, he was the He family's eldest grandson, personally cared for by the He family couple, so he couldn't possibly have a bad life. The wet nurse who came with He Wenja to find him saw me and respectfully bowed. Miss, then quietly tried to take He Yugo away. Young master, the old madam is looking for you. Let's go back. But that little one stood there stiffly, not moving. His eyes were red, brimming with tears. Looking at me, he sobbed. You are my mother. You are my mother. Mother, why did you abandon me? Grandmother said you would come back. But I waited for so long, so long. Even when that new bride said you were dead, I still didn't wait for you to come. The little one who wouldn't cry, even when hurt from the collision just now had tears sliding down from the corners of his eyes. I remained silent for a moment, then finally sighed and stepped forward to pat his head. It is me. Don't cry anymore. He hugged my waist and cried super loudly. Mother, I know what others think of me. Nothing more than being too heartless. abandoning even my own child, not asking about him all these years. Among all the mothers in the world, who could be as cold and ruthless as me? Honestly, there was that moment right when the tears fell from Hyuga's eyes. I almost wanted to take him away with me, but he truly is Hyuga's son, with half of Hyuga's blood flowing through him. When he saw me gently wipe his tears and call his name, he said happily, "Mother, you came to get me. Our family of 3 can be together again. Father waited for you for so long. So long every time he got drunk, he would go to your room. He wouldn't let me call Lulu by mother. He made me only recognize you. Mother, let's go home." The tenderness in my eyes turned cold, and I pushed him away without hesitation, speaking out amid his astonished expression. "No, I am not your mother." Hyuga made a huge commotion crying when the wet nurse carried him away. As if he had suffered a great injustice, he made a fuss that I was cold and heartless and would never acknowledge me again. Grandmother was right. Wang Leiyuan is a heartless woman who, for her own pleasure, doesn't care about her own son. I accepted it all calmly. Instead, the bystanders looked embarrassed, and Wu Chan apologized. This official didn't expect to run into these people. Miss Wang, this time this official's hospitality was inadequate. I smiled and shook my head. I truly didn't mind. It is not like he hadn't seen my destitute appearance when I left the He family 7 years ago. Naturally, he also hesitated. "That child seems quite attached to you, so even for the child's sake, you still won't go back." I watched the wet nurse and child's figures disappear from view and smiled. "I won't go back. Lord Wu, let's continue discussing the merchant matters." I hadn't forgotten that I came here to earn more silver. As for He Wenja and Lulu Bai, as soon as the He family couple learned of their arrest, they almost immediately pulled strings to get them out. After all, the He family's face couldn't be lost. And me proper business here proceeded in an orderly manner. At the same time, the old affairs between me and the He family from 7 years ago were also dug up and spread far and wide. Wherever she went, there were inevitably more gossips and idle chatter. Ningxuang was so angry her teeth itched. If I hadn't stopped her, the throwing darts in her hand could have been flung into a flower pattern. What a heartless scoundrel. What a He family. We had no idea Sister Leiyun had suffered such tremendous grievances before. If the brothers and sisters below knew about this, they'd definitely turn his He family upside down. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. They're just old matters, all in the past. Since I no longer care, why should you be upset? Hearing this, Ningxuang's tone became more urgent. "But Sister Leiyuan, that child of yours, are you really going to abandon him too? I am not keeping him. But I wasn't the one who abandoned him first." Hearing the gatekeeper report that a guest had arrived, I finally said, "He was the one who abandoned me first." The guest was in the main hall, dignified and noble. Even though her years had passed, she hadn't lost half a bit of the old Madam He's imposing presence. What was different was that in the past, when she saw me, her face was full of kindness and she'd call out with a smile, "Little Yuan, come here and let me have a look at you." But now she merely glanced over with slanted eyes and said coldly, "You are here." Whether then or now, I always went with the flow. Leiyuan pays respects to the old madam. My polite distance was no less than hers. A crack appeared in her expression as she gritted her teeth. "Yuan, your mother and I were old friends, and you were once my family's daughter-in-law. Now, must you insist on being so distant with me? Having spent so long in the business world, my ability to remain unbound by moral blackmail is impeccable." I cut straight to the point. "Old madam, surely you didn't come here just to condemn me, did you?" Hit right on the mark. Mother Hia's face couldn't hold up. She snorted coldly. "Sure enough, after going back for a few years, your wings have grown hard, so disrespectful to your elders. Lil Yuan, let me ask you. Back then my son agreed to separate from you, and you agreed with your own mouth. Why is it that today you return with a grudge in your heart, nearly causing him the disaster of imprisonment? Men, then why doesn't old madam ask why your son and daughter-in-law were pestering people in the street? Pestering endlessly like dogs. You..." Mother He was furious. Such a glib tongue. My son was remembering old affections. All these years you've had no wifely virtue, heartlessly abandoning your child and never returning. My son is magnanimous and often thinks of you. Who knows what spell you cast on him, causing unrest in his household even after he remarried. Back then I still felt guilty that he separated from you. Now thinking about it, as the young madam, you couldn't even tolerate a co-wife. So jealous that Wenja didn't want you is what you deserved. I don't know how your mother taught you. Old madam My voice rose a notch. She stopped abruptly. Meeting my icy gaze, she instinctively looked away. In her ear I spoke word by word back then. You disliked that my mother only gave birth to me, a daughter, and urged my mother to let my father take concubines to bear sons. These are matters of the elders, and as a junior, I couldn't say much. Latter, the He family did indeed save my life. As a wife for 3 years, I was filial to my parents-in-law, supported my husband and taught my child, worked tirelessly without complaint. I can say with a clear conscience that I was worthy of the entire He family. But He Wenja insisted on marrying another woman as an equal wife, humiliating me. So what is wrong with me divorcing him? Even the divorce was with your tacit approval, wasn't it? How is it that now, from your mouths, I've become cold-hearted, jealous, and without virtue? Mother, he slammed the table. Men having 3 or 4 wives, which family isn't like this? What do other families' 3 or 4 wives have to do with me? I, Wang Leiyuan, am unwilling to share a husband with others, which is why I signed that divorce papers without any hesitation. My mother taught me propriety, righteousness, integrity, and shame, poetry, books, rites, and music. I can say with a clear conscience. So, old madam, please don't drag the deceased into this. But Wenja truly loves you. All these years he has been constantly quarrelling with that Liu woman. After you came back and refused to see him, he has been drinking every day. And then there is the child Yuge. I remained unmoved. What does how he chooses to be have to do with me? I didn't force him. Mother, his face paled a bit, struggling. But the He family saved your life. I looked coldly. If not for that, do you think the He family could still be living peacefully as they are now? Her eyes widened, so angry, she nearly couldn't catch her breath, returned in defeat. The next day, news that I had nearly angered my former mother-in-law to death spread everywhere. Even the merchant business was somewhat affected. Ningshuang sharpened her throwing daggers, grinding her teeth. Playing such underhanded tricks, why not just have the brothers from the underworld finish him off with one slash? I fiddled with my abacus, not even lifting my head. The He family are business people. Old madam he isn't so senile that she'd come cause trouble knowing I have connections with the authorities. So whoever did this probably isn't the He family's decision-maker. Then who is it? I seemed to hear someone's voice shouting and struggling. Suddenly thinking of something, I asked Ning Shuang, "These past few days, has old master he been away from Yunzhou?" After learning about my past, she had looked into the He family. Hearing this, she nodded. Then it is not strange. Old madam, he had just been angered into unconsciousness by me yesterday. Old master, he wasn't in Yunzhou either. In the end, what remained had all gathered in this courtyard. I'd temporarily purchased, Lulu Bai, brought over with her hands bound and mouth covered, and he Wenja with a look of seeking credit. Yuan, this vicious woman framed you. Now I've brought her back tied up for you to deal with as you please. You were just upset with her. Right. Now I've divorced her. I know I was wrong. And I've also remembered that the embroidered mandarin duck handkerchief was a gift from you. Let's go home, our family can reunite. As well as an identical copy in Hiyage, mother. This bad woman has been captured. So will you forgive father now? He tugged at the hem of my clothes, acting coquettishly. Mother, father, and I both miss you so much. Lulu Bai, bound and tied, was utterly wretched and completely deranged. Where was that aloof and proud demeanour from years ago, like a dead dog thrown at my feet by the man who loved her most? They waited for me to beam with joy. My great revenge finally achieved. But I only looked coldly at the pair, one big and one small, shaking them off. Extremely annoyed, get lost. The smiles on both their faces froze. He Wenjie probed tentatively. Yuan, why aren't you happy? Back then, if it weren't for her, we wouldn't have divorced. Now she is still spreading vicious rumors about you. I am doing this for your own good. And there is this handkerchief. He eagerly pulled out that handkerchief embroidered with a colorful kite, trying to prove something. Don't you remember? I am Wenja, brother Wenja. I frowned, the disgust in my eyes unconcealed. It is precisely because I remember that I feel so disgusted. He Wenja, I Wang Laoyuan must have been blind back then to have fallen for a scumbag like you. He Wenjie was deeply struck. Yuan, I closed my eyes, my tone ice, cold and piercing. He Wenjie, if you had the guts to own up to it, admit that you were too timing, secretly keeping a mistress behind your pregnant wife's back, divorcing your wife right after she gave birth just to marry your mistress. I'd at least respect you as an honest scoundrel. But I never imagined you'd wash your hands clean of everything. What? Did Lulu Bai force you onto her bed? Or force you to divorce your wife? Wasn't it you who claimed to be such a romantic, willing to die to be with her? How come now you regret it and push all the blame away? I've said it before, Lulu Bai seduced a married man. She is no good person. But he Wenja, the main culprit, is even worse back then. He was still spirited and dared to draw his sword and let me stab him. At least he was an honest villain. But who would have thought 7 years have worn away his pride, leaving only a mess and a coward who dares to act, but not take responsibility. He Wenja was so shamed by my words he couldn't lift his head, pleading, "Then what will it take for you to forgive me?" I sneered. We already cut ties 7 years ago, what forgiveness is there to speak of? His face completely fell, murmuring, Yuan, are we truly fated to never be together in this lifetime? Number, he suddenly raised his eyes, hope flickering within. I said decisively, it is the next life, the life after that, for all eternity. I Wang Laoyuan will never have anything to do with you again. He refused to accept it. But you loved me to the bone. How can you change just like that? If you don't love me, then how did you bear me, Yuji? He Yuge blocked his way, protecting him as he confronted me. Mother, you can't blame father. It is all that bad woman's fault. Father was deceived. He already knows he was wrong. As soon as he opened his mouth, Ning Shuang, who had been holding back for a long time, couldn't stand it anymore and rolled up her sleeves. You child, you are clearly Sister Laoyuan's son. So why are you speaking up for that heartless man and instead blaming your own mother for being wrong? She doesn't care about me at all, He Yuge said stubbornly, crying. If she really cared about me, how could she leave me behind and go off alone? All these years, it was Grandma and Grandpa who took care of me, and it was Father who taught me to read and write. He wouldn't even let me say bad things about Mother, saying Mother must have her reasons. But what about her as? If venting 7 years of accumulated grievances, he pointed at me and shouted loudly. Where was she when I was wronged? Where was she when I was hungry and cold? Where was she when others laughed at me for being abandoned by my own mother? She just enjoyed herself carefree all these years, and even after returning to Yunzhou, she wouldn't come see me once. Even when I begged her, she still wouldn't come back. Carefree enjoyed herself? Ning Shuang glared with furious eyes. What a clever tongue. All these years, Le Yuan, a woman alone, travelled far and wide, nearly died on the road several times, was mocked by others for being improper as a woman, suffered from hunger and cold while travelling, nearly died 9 times out of 10, and couldn't survive. Where were all of you then? Even this past year, she only just gained a foothold and had some stability. Speaking of being carefree and enjoying oneself, who could compare to you all these 7 years your greatest grievance, is nothing more than missing a meal or two. Have you ever thought about how your mother survives out there? If she truly didn't care for you, she would have taken you away like that. And you wouldn't have survived a year she was a martial artist, imposing and aggressive, while He Yug was only a 7-year-old child after all. His little face turned pale with fright. I held Ning Shuang's hand. She turned her face away, her eyes red. Sister Laoyuan, it is not that I meant to meddle in your affairs, but they're simply bullying you too much. All these years you've endured such hardships without saying much, Yet they've been living carefree and happy, only to turn around and blame you for wrongdoing. It is simply outrageous. I smiled and wiped her tears. Good girl. I know you mean well. Now, leave the rest to me. How laughable. My wedded husband and the child I carried for 10 months and gave birth to are both accusing me of being heartless and selfish. Yet, it is this woman of the martial world who has only known me for 7 years, who is the first to feel for my hardships. I used to think that family bonds and romantic love were the most reliable, but Wang Laiyuan's experience tells us some relationships are shackles, some encounters are salvation, blood ties and marriage have never been the measure of true devotion. Real care is when, even without understanding your whole story, someone is willing to firmly stand by your side. I walked up to Hiyuej. This child looked extremely like Wenja from the moment he was born, and now that he has grown a bit, he looks even more like him. Even the evil roots in his blood are exactly the same. I restrained my smile, looking down at him as I spoke, without heartache, and without regret. Do you know why I agreed to the divorce back then? After hearing Ningxuang's words, Yugej felt somewhat lacking in confidence. Father was also deceived by a bad woman. He already knows he was wrong. So he does know. He knows that Wenja was intimately involved with another woman while I was pregnant. He knows that when I had a difficult labor with my swollen belly, nearly dying to give birth to the child, Wenja's first words were to force me into divorce. He knows even more that after divorcing me, Wenja grandly took Lu Bai as his equal wife in a lavish ceremony. Since you know, then you understand that I never wanted to give birth to you in the first place. Yuan, Wenja cried out in shock. Yue was stunned, unable to believe it. But I didn't stop. If I had known early on that he had developed feelings for that woman, even at the risk of both our deaths, I would have drunk a bowl of abortion medicine. But your so-called father hid it from me, made me give birth to the child, then forced me into divorce. You are the eldest grandson of the He family, while I am just an orphaned girl. Even if I fought to the death, I couldn't take you away. But why would I bother taking you anyway? Since I gave birth to you, you are still my child after all. Why would I make you suffer? I recounted the past years. If I had really taken you away, you probably would have been like what Ningxuang said, unable to survive even a year on the Silk Road. All these years you've resented me for not caring about you, but the servants and wet nurses around you were all confidants I left behind when I was at the He family. They never hid anything from you, yet you never carefully thought about the deeper meaning. How would you know that whenever you suffered even the slightest hardship at the He family, they would send a letter to me immediately, and I would come take you away? But you didn't, did you? All these years you haven't suffered a bit of hardship at the He family, so what do you have to feel wronged about? That is not it. Hiyuge shook his head desperately. You didn't even stay for me, so what good are a few servants? Why should I stay for you? I questioned back. I have no debt of raising you, so I don't expect you to call me mother or be close to me, or to take my side in disputes with the He family. But at the very least, I have the debt of giving birth to you. So when I am striving to soar to the clouds, you shouldn't be dragging me into the mud. My tone was terrifyingly calm. Yuge seemed to sense something and anxiously tried to grab my hand. Mother, then was mercilessly shaken off by me. Yuge, I don't owe you anything, nor do I owe your Ha family anything. Therefore, if you all want peace, then get far away from me. If you keep pestering me, don't blame me for being ruthless. This father and son were driven out by my order to Ningxuang. He didn't specifically instruct her what methods to use to drive them out, so naturally she improvised freely. Admittedly, Wenja did have the merit of rescuing me. Although we're even, it still wouldn't be good for me to personally take action. But Ningxuang and him had not even half a cent of relationship, so I heard that the eldest young master of the He family came to sit at my place for a while and ended up with a broken leg. It shows that the threshold of my place is indeed too high, making him so careless. After the two left, I removed the white cloth that was stuffed in Lulubai's mouth. The person who was previously screaming hysterically, wild and crazed, now without restraints, instead collapsed on the ground as if having gone through a serious illness, staring blankly at the sky, giving up, struggling. Voice barely audible, Wang Leiyuan. You must be extremely pleased with yourself. Making me watch you win. The things I begged for but couldn't get. You discard like worn-out shoes. You must be very pleased with yourself. I am not very happy. No one would be happy encountering a bunch of unlucky bastards on such a fine day. But since she thinks so, I can only say, if you think so, I have never defended myself. She murmured to herself, tears in her eyes. But clearly he once said he loved only me the most. He was going to take me to see the beautiful Jiangnan. He wanted me to never suffer humiliation again. But why did everything change after we got married? Nothing more than passionate love turning into daily necessities, having the white moonlight yet wanting the cinnabar mole too. They began to argue and blame each other like every resentful couple many times. Lulubai had thought about sitting down to talk things through properly, but every time she couldn't bear it anymore. In the end, she even started to wonder if she had been wrong to fight for this husband, disregarding all the gossip and slander from others. No, she wouldn't admit she was wrong. So she started trying hard to cater to He Wenjie. Light rouge turned into white powder, and vermilion lips, pride and arrogance turned into paranoia and suspicion. 7 years' time, just like that, she transformed herself into a twisted and crazed appearance. Clearly she got what she wished for, but she also lost everything, now that she has been cast out. Utterly wretched, she asked me as she left. Why don't you take this opportunity to get your revenge on me? I didn't sympathize with her and told her honestly, your days ahead will only be difficult. Since they'll be difficult anyway, why would I waste time I could spend making money to dirty my own hands? She laughed self-mockingly, swaying and staggering as she disappeared into the night. And what Wu Wen and I needed to do had already fallen into place naturally. If there was an episode worth mentioning, it was probably after Old Master he returned home and saw his first wife who had fallen ill from anger, as well as his only son who was utterly dispirited. In his great fury, he joined forces with quite a few xenophobic merchants and used some tactics. But it still comes back to what I said to old Madam. The reason they could live so peacefully was because I hadn't done anything yet. Now that they've taken the initiative to provoke me, they can't blame me for retaliating. I forcibly tore away 30% of the He family's business, making them show signs of decline and damaging their vitality. I obediently stayed put and didn't dare move around. When everything's accomplished, I am also planning to leave Yunzhou and expand into bigger business ventures. Wu Wen came to see me off. He mentioned a recent murder case that happened in Yunzhou. Apparently, He Wenjie tried to divorce his wife, but ended up being poisoned by her instead, and both died with bitter resentment. By the time the servants discovered them, it was already too late to save them. That household only had one son, and now that he is gone, only a grandson remains. With this, the family's fallen on hard times and will likely decline from here on. After hearing this, I said to him that life is unpredictable. Then I saw that people from the caravan had already come and been waiting for me for quite a while, urging me, "Boss, let's go." I instantly forgot about the matter, mounted my horse, and said with a laugh, "Coming this time, I took with me the wet nurse and loyal servant who had been stationed here for many years. At that time, the spring scenery was wonderful. The grass grew lush and orioles flew about.